Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show and welcome to Tuesday, Trivia Tuesday. This is the day where we ask trivia questions to members of the audience and win valuable prizes and unlock various goodies. Welcome. And the first trivia question is to Mara. Name Ram's young twin brothers, Mara. Yeah, Ram's young twin brothers.
Shatrughna.
Pretty good.
And
I don't think she gets Shatrughna.
Lakshman, right? Is it
Yes.
Lakshman?
Yes. And who is the mother? Pass on that one.
Koshalya.
No, it was Ram's
No.
mother. That's good, though. Good question, though. Okay, Kaustubha, good morning to you. You want to
Morning, Raghu.
Okay, you just unlocked valuable prizes, Mara.
What did I win?
You won unconditional love. Lord Chaitanya, he's giving it away freely, though.
Seems like a scam.
It is.
We're called out. Mara finally calls out Raghunath. This is all a scam.
Unconditional love is like the highest thing. You don't want that? Come on.
Isn't it free?
It is free, but we ask questions so to inspire the conversation.
Okay.
Unconditional love by
Mara
definition has to
texted
be
me after
free,
the
doesn't
show,
it?
and she goes, "I was very impressed at your 10th chapter knowledge."
Oh yeah, you were Raghunath. I have to admit, you were acing that thing yesterday. It was like
I got the
unbelievable.
whole 10th chapter. It's it's a game for our kids. I've turned it into a game. I call it the 10th chapter game. Try it with your friends and family. Try it if you all divine couples listening today. Try it with your partner. Learn that second. What verse does it start at?
I don't know.
Of
10...
great sages I am Brigu. Of the immovable things. Play that game so you don't say the thing and they have to guess it. And if you play it with two kids, that's even more fun because then they compete with each other, and that always adds flavor. Today we're going to be all about the glories of competition today. Okay, so today, tomorrow we have a walk on Wednesday. We're hoping it's Krishnagi, but she's on some adventure right now. And we want to make a little bit of an announcement about if you go to Raghunath.yoga. Isn't it amazing that you can get a .yoga now? How big is yoga that you can be a .yoga? Kaustubha.yoga if you want it to be. Anything. .com is like old school. .yoga. That's how big yoga is. It's amazing. No one else is fascinated. Everyone's like,
no, it's just some. I don't even know what they call it. Some carrier just decided to do that. It's like
no, you can't. I don't know who's in charge of this is .com and .net. That's all it was for years. Now you can actually be. There's not millions of them. There's still a handful, but .yoga is one of them. Impressive. Yoga, that would, who would think of that 30 years ago, that there would be a .yoga.
All right.
Matter of fact, 30 years ago, there was no .anything. I don't think.
All right, what's the announcement?
Anyway,
then?
if you go to Raghunath.yoga, which is my website, and then click on the Pilgrimage and Wisdom of the Sages Retreat, all the info is up for our Wisdom of the Sages Retreat. And we did something interesting. we said, you know what, this is the Bhagavatam, and therefore the Bhagavatam is like it's like the most sacred of all literatures. We have to do it like a Brahmin. We have to offer this like brahmanas, which means you don't charge. You have the cost, and then people give a donation. So if you like what we do, you give a donation to the teachers. The cost of the whole trip down there, airline ticket you got to pay for, and that is incredibly cheap right now. Last time I checked, under.
Well, to go down
$300.
where? You haven't said to go where yet.
Kali, Colombia. Our friend has an ashram in Our friend has an ashram in Kali, Colombia, and we're doing a 12-day, 11-night retreat. Me, Kaustubha, and Mara. And they have this cool ashram, and it's a nice place. And there's a right next to a country club where we can use the pool and the hot tub. And there's
It's not right next to a country club.
It's not. What is it?
No, but
all right, you tell. I've never been there. You've been there.
Okay, this place is beautiful. You know, I've been there 3 times. Shama Sundari and Sri Govinda are very close friends. We're on this beautiful little ashram in Kali, Colombia. They have their own properties about, you know, maybe 1 or 2 acres. It's not huge or anything like that, but it's really sweet. And there's all these animals running around it, and it's just really picturesque and quaint. They got 2 yoga platforms that are kind of like indoor outdoor, like they have roofs, but you know, the weather's so nice there all the time that you don't need to have walls.
How's the tropical fruit?
There's tons of beautiful tropical fruits, things like you've never had before, really far out stuff I never seen in my life.
Like oranges and bananas?
No, other stuff. And it's things that I don't even know the names of. And it's just a beautiful place to be, but there's also nearby there's a country club. Beautiful, and country clubs are like really mellow out there. It's just like you can go there and just hang out. It's beautiful. The mountain, the Andes Mountains are in the background, and you can go swimming in the stream right there in the country club. Like there's a kind of like a big stream. There's also hikes that we take into beautiful, you know, picturesque mountain scenes with waterfalls. We go swimming in the waterfalls. It's just a you know, beautiful people. Everybody's so sweet there. Delicious food, just great atmosphere. Right. It's just a wonderful place. You know, there's a beautiful farm there too.
Mara gets like 2 weeks off of cooking detail. She just gets to hang with us. This whole wedding this weekend and the Wisdom of the Sages retreat, she was just like working her butt off. I felt so bad because everyone wanted to hang out with her, but she was cooking. So Mara gets to just hang.
Mary's gonna come.
So anyway, it's $900 is the cost of it, and then you give a donation to the teachers.
So in other words, the cost is just the expenses of staying there for that time.
Yeah, just the cost of expenses. You get $500
and so
to split, $1,000, $1,500. You can give us bitcoins, whatever you want to give us. Or
so
you
the
can
point
say,
is,
you know, I can afford $1, whatever you can afford. We do it, and we just throw our hands up in the air and trust that we'll be taken care of.
So in other words, we're charging just for the expenses, and then we ask that whatever donation you'd like to give on top of that, you can give.
Yeah, and it's going to sell out. So if you want to register right now. Go to my website again. It's raghunath.yoga. Raghunath is Raghu, like Raghunath. Raghunath.yoga, and then click on the. Click on that tab that says, Pilgrimage and Wisdom of the Sages Retreat.
And so what are the dates?
January 19th to 30th. And also there's COVID protocol in place. And Colombia was pretty good with COVID. I don't think it was hit that bad. And I think they just reopened. But of course, when you register or when you inquire, there's an email who to inquire from. Our friend Tara is doing the registration. You know, and he'll say, don't buy your plane tickets until we have a confirmation because everyone can't make a plan because of COVID.
So if due to COVID it gets shut down, obviously everyone will be refunded.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's going to happen at that retreat, Raghunath? We still don't know what's going on there.
We're going to do, everybody gets to do live. That's for sure. Cause we're going to go live from there.
Okay.
And we're going to, you get 3 vegan/vegetarian meals a day. Airport pickup. This is all included. Stunning hikes and picnics. Other hikes to waterfalls. Day excursions to Kali Market. All that's what we're doing is chanting, studying Bhagavad Gita shlokas, Sanskrit, doing live asanas and pranayama every day for all levels. Morning and evening kirtan. Study of chanting of Vedic stotrams and transcendental prayers.
Okay. It's all kind of cool stuff.
It's the best. It's gonna be the funnest thing ever. It better happen. It better happen, because I turn into the guy from The Shining during these long winters in upstate New York.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get you down there in the sun.
Yeah, this is the first time I haven't been in India in the winter.
But I'll tell you, I just love Colombia and the Colombian people. It's just like really great people and just beautiful place. So it's nice. You go there, you like it.
That's a stereotype, Prabhu.
So, well,
You can't
whatever.
say that. No.
That they're nice.
I dare you
Can't say if people are
stereotype
nice.
a class of people.
Okay.
But no, they are sweet, especially our hosts. Okay, let's dive into the sweet Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And we are almost done with we're going to
finish the chapter
second
today.
canto. We're going to finish the chapter finally, which is called, of the second canto, Prushashuta Confirmed. This is chapter 6. We had that great verse yesterday with the spacemen.
I can't believe that we didn't go off on further tangents with that, Raghunath.
I tried to contain myself, but it just shows that there are beings. There are beings. It's obvious there's beings from not just higher planets, lower planets, other earthly planets. I think that whole concept of that there are other earthly planets is fascinating. Like that they have the same languages, the same technology, or have they gone just like a different way? Have they decided, you know what, we're going to be a little cleaner. We're not going to create, we're going to learn how to refine sewage, unlike your stupid earthly planet. We're going to not use pharmaceuticals as much as your dumb earthly planet. We're not going to wreck the water table like we're not going to frack. All these things, like maybe they just made different choices and they have a different result on these other earthly planets. The higher planets, I don't even get them. I can't even, like, are higher planets subtle? Have you ever thought about that, Kaustubha? Are the beings subtle beings? Like, can you grab them, or are they like apparition-y-ish?
I believe, I'm sure it's more subtle on some level, but I can't really speak on it very much.
And then, of course, the other interesting thing is these spirits, and sometimes
Out of all of it,
I think it's just important to mention because it's part of the whole culture.
Okay. But that was
spirits.
Yesterday. You had your full opportunity to go off on it yesterday.
Well, I'm just saying there are beings, subtle beings. They can enter your body. You can conjure them. People worship them. We were talking about how some religion just worships higher beings. They channel. I'm wondering if tarot is just worship, is the connection with some
But this point
floating around.
Is that the Vaishnavas, they're not so concerned. We recognize that these things exist, but we're not so concerned with them, especially when it starts going dark and tamasic, right? The interest is a far more pure one, With that being said, it seems like you chanted the wrong mantras. Everybody's saying, what happened to the mantras? What did you chant? I don't remember. I'm so spaced out right now.
I don't think
You chanted Om Namo Bhagavate.
Oh, you chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Oh, whoops. We always chant that, though, don't we?
Yeah, you chanted like
At the
at
beginning.
first, but then there's the other ones.
Okay, I didn't do Narayana Namaskrit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it brings us to another point of the Vaishnavas don't deal with these things. We're quote above it. Yet you find that devotees still do Jyotish or astrology. They also do various,
It's no matter what I do, you keep going back. It's like
anyway, I just think it's interesting. Like if you have someone that's very sick and you want to do some pujas to some gods to get the sickness, or to exorcise some beings. There's people who are spiritual people, devotees who do that. They will deal with material gods or fertility or things like that.
all right.
We're not completely writing it off, but we're just not worshiping it But some people just say, you know what? I brought this to Sri Vrindavan when I was in Vrindavan. I said to, because he was giving that very good astrology class. And I said, listen, as devotees, shouldn't we just trust that whatever we got, and that's what God wants us to have? And he says, yes, that's the highest perspective. But some people are just struggling with the material world so much that they may want to do something else to counteract that. There's such a big block in their life that they may have to do some pujas or some mantras to the gods. So probably it might just depend on your faith. That being said, Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta priyeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become completely annihilated. In loving service to the personality of Godhead, who's praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srimad Bhagavatam providing real-world tools for transforming daily life. Okay, 43 to 45. Oh, we've read that. That was the purport. Want to read just 46?
46.
Last verse.
O
Narada, this is Brahma speaking. Brahma, the four-headed Brahma, creator of the universe. O Narada, now I shall state one after another the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, known as Leela avatars.
Leela avatars.
Good name, if you're having a
Remember
daughter.
Leela avatar?
Yes, I do. Leela Avatar was one of the original people that talked to us about Krishna, for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing of the activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear.
Foul matters.
That's a great
It's like
statement.
A big transcendental Q-tip. This gets right in there.
If you think about all the foul things you've heard in your ears, all you got to do is go to Netflix. There's so much foul stuff on Netflix. Just put it in your ears. So hearing of the activities of the Leela avatars cleanses with Q-tip-like power the foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. They are even in Lord Brahma's heart.
That's really something, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying that okay, next chapter I'm going to describe the Leela avatars. There's different categories of avatars. Maybe tomorrow or something we can get into that.
It's pretty interesting. There's different avatars even.
Yeah. So
right?
Avatar means one who descends. So it means that it's saying that Krishna will manifest even in this world in many different varieties, different forms. And Leela avatars means one category of the ways that he comes is that he performs different pastimes, right? It's like anyway, I won't get into all the different kind of avatars right now, but sometimes it's coming on business.
We should mention it though.
Yeah, but I think we get into that when we get into the next chapter. But Leela avatars it means the sense that he comes and performs these specific types of pastimes. And it's saying that this is what you want to hear about. He's saying that it does a couple. One is that it counteracts all the negative stuff that you've been hearing, all that stuff that does nothing for you that's good, that's coming in through your ears, that it counteracts it all. And that it also is pleasing to hear and it's to be relished. In other words, this is what we are meant to find our pleasure in. And if you do, you're really practicing yoga effectively. And Brahma, who's like the ultimate yogi, the guy can create with his mind, right? He's saying, This is what's in my heart. This is what I keep in my heart,
It's interesting because material foul sound It's
Material,
like
foul sound.
it's like addictive. Addictive
Right.
meaning one, just like for example, the other day you sent me that video of.
Oh, did I put you in trouble? Did I
No,
just
you
do
got me
something
a
wrong?
video. You got me a video of.
Oh,
I
that's
can't
the
remember
dog,
what.
dog face.
The guy, dog face guy on the skateboard going to work. So he sent me that video, but that video, because
It
you
opened a
saw
door.
you saw the purity in that. But to me, I was just like watching this video, and that led me to other suggestions of videos that I might like. And then I was like, oh, let's see, the 10 greatest criminals of all time. I'll click on that one. that led me one to the 10 greatest heists gone wrong. Click on that one. The 10 worst criminals of all time. Click on that. You know what I mean? And it was just like they feed into each other. One type of foul sound. Yeah, one type of foul sound leads to another, and they become all right. This is good. Oh, let me try this one. And it is really. It's not just like the World Wide Web existed. The material world is web-like because you put one hand in, and then all of a sudden you try to get that hand out, the other hand gets caught in, and the whole material sound vibration is like that. One author leads you to another. What to speak of their tamasic? You can really fall down a tamasic hole.
Dark stuff.
Of dark stuff, real dark stuff.
It's interesting.
And I get it. Dark stuff has to be dealt with. Like there are dark things going on in the world, and it has to be be dealt with. It's got to be dealt with by people who deal with it. But people who just like to peer into it, that's not good for nobody.
In other words, you're saying we do need like murder detectives, but not everybody has to spend their whole life like
studying murder. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes. And I tell you, you need murder detectives because there's murderous people out there, and you could get lost in the world of what, Mara? She's going, no, here he goes. Don't give me that head shaking. I think it's important to say these things because we're not like saying stick your head in the sand because there's criminals and dark places, but there's certain people that focus on these things, and those people in any job you have, even in your cooking world, Mara, you're going to run into stuff that you're going to have to like pull back from and then go, get centered, get Krishna conscious, and then go back into your world. But some people's job isn't just dealing with cardamom and cloves. They're dealing with like murderous human trafficking, kidnapping, violent crimes. And they have to like really protect themselves when they go into that. And I guess that's what we all have to do. That's what our sadhana does. It creates like a safety bubble so we can go into our workplace and then step out of our workplace.
Well, I like the way that you kind of like compare. You said, what did you say that the material world is like the
It's not
internet?
just cloves and cardamom, I said.
No, not that, but that you said it's like the internet. In other words,
it's like a web.
It's like a web. Before the World Wide Web, it's still a web.
It's a web.
Because one thing leads to another. I remember famous...
Go ahead.
You go. And then we do this for an hour. You go.
So I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, now I remember. So it's like clickbait, right?
Love
clickbait.
That word.
Clickbait. It's like if someone is like a really naive internet surfer, then they're like unaware that like, hey, that thing is just clickbait, right? They're just like 52 ways, or here's like the 14 most like fascinating, this or that, right?
I love those things.
And then they make you, and rather than like, then you click on it, and rather than like show the list that you want to see, they make you like click on different pages to go through each one. Each one is throwing advertisements out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like they advertise like the one that you really want to hear about, but they don't leave that one till the end.
Yeah.
Right. So they created some clickbait.
Yeah.
And when you go through the clickbait, what happens is you're like, oh, this looks interesting.
And there's other clickbait.
Oh, I haven't gotten to it yet. Oh, I see they're making me go through a lot of stuff. And in the end, you end up very dissatisfied, right? You feel like I got cheated. That was a waste of time.
And they usually have some like fantastic story, that's the original one is like, what?
Yeah. The original one is like compelling. And then you're going through like all this stuff that's like not so compelling. And then you never even get to and then you're like, oh, man, they got me again. Clickbait.
Right? And so I appreciate, I'm having a Mara appreciation moment right now, but like what Mara has done in her sanctified kitchen is she's the boss and she has the ability to control the environment. And she just at one point out of her intense spiritual practice, she just said, listen, there's a lot of nonsense talk going on, low class talk. I hope none of your employees are listening. There's a lot of low class talk going
Ellie?
on. We're going to change. What
are you doing this weekend?
We're going to change the conversation. And she just said, I don't want to hear people talking about this and this and this and this. And she changed the level of the conversation and she made it a sacred space by her desire. Otherwise, sound is, and she just at least neutralized it. And then she probably puts on some kirtans, and that changes the atmosphere of it. Otherwise, you've got either neutral or lower vibe conversation. And that's not just affecting your mind. You're cooking, keep banging that mic. You're affecting the food. That low brow talk is going right into your bread, a big loaf of lust, a big loaf of greed, a big loaf of, envy and competition.
Of murder.
Of murder. But it's true. The sound enters the food when you're cooking, but the sound enters the consciousness, and that triggers other people. This is the web. It triggers other people. Oh, yeah, that reminds me of this. And then they get into something.
Well, that was my point. You didn't let me finish that, Raghunath. Was that it's like clickbait. So like if there's clickbait on the internet, and the point is that hopefully we become a little bit savvy as we're moving around the internet. We realize, oh, I'm not going down that clickbait thing again. It's sitting there tempting me to click on it. But I know it's dissatisfying in the end, right?
Yeah.
And so similarly, that's the way that we need to become as we move through this world, realizing whether it's this conversation or this type of conversation with these people, or whether it's like the stuff that we read, or the stuff that you listen to. And, read, this is interesting, but like there's a principle, according to the sacred text of the yoga tradition, that if you want to go deeper into your yoga practice, there's one part of the body that you really need to focus on. The ear.
That's why I'm doing a whole Raghunath's 10 great ear exercises.
Okay.
No,
we're going to have the ear workshop.
As a matter of fact, me and Uddhava Sandesh are working on something right now with that. He took a clip from that thing. I said something like on Joe Rogan all about that. The real transformation, I said, is not the gross transformation with yoga is the body. And then the breathing starts to regulate the mind. But it's the mantra that actually does the most drastic transformation. You know who said this also? Ooh. Not just me. Krishnamacharya said this. Krishnamacharya says, he said, paraphrasing, and I'm going to get it bad, but basically this. There's a power in asana to transform the body. Twice as powerful as for transformation is pranayama. Mm-hmm. Now, that's hard for Americans to even get.
I know.
But it is the breathing, because it regulates all the life airs, it regulates the health. Anybody who does yoga knows that first day of yoga when the teachers got you in Warrior One and you're not breathing, you're just like that. And the teacher finally says, breathe, Mara, breathe. And
is that how you do Warrior One, Raghunath?
That's how you do it. Okay. Sit in a chair and put your hands in the air. No, but the idea is like, it's different pose when you're breathing than if you're not breathing. And sometimes people come from an athletic background. They're just sort of muscling through these poses. And then the teacher finally reminds them to breathe. And it changes the whole thing. It changes the whole pose. But the pranayama refines the asana, but it's the mantra that refines the pranayama. And he said mantra actually transforms even more. How can that be? How can a sound transform us more? How can that be? Is because sound is always resonating in the consciousness, and it directs us, and it creates our choices, and it creates our trajectory of how we move in the world. And it also gives me my worth or lack of, we know people suffer from a sound in their mind of self-deprecation, a sound in their mind of worthlessness, a sound in their mind of, I'm not good enough. Those are real things, and they transform a person, and they might suffer with that their entire life. And so these sounds that we're putting in the ears, the Bhagavatam is all about replacing old sounds, not just with neutral sounds, but with these positive sounds that start to
counteract all the foul matters accumulated
counteract
in the ear.
and basically, what do you call it when you not that I've ever redone furniture, but they put this stuff
Skim
on,
coat.
not skim coat, but thank you for reminding
Reupholster?
that. Not reupholster. That's that's
Gosh.
the worst analogy because it's counteractive to my analogy.
That's the worst one, Mary. Bad.
Sorry.
Bad analogy.
No, it's when you strip in the paint. Then you strip in the paint, not adding layers of cushion. When you strip the paint off things, you're going through. You're skimming it down. You're planing it. Somebody help me.
Sanding.
But whatever it is, you got to take off all the layers of the muck when you do these refinished furniture, which I've never ever done. There's layers of paint, then you get to the wood, then you sand it, then you get the refined sandpaper. I bet someone like Banjo Mike knows how to do stuff
Different
like this.
layers, different grades of
Different grades of refined sandpaper, and then you get this original wood. So we have to go through the layers. And what we're doing with this sound is we're scraping the layers off of the jiva, the contaminated, foul-sounded jiva, lifetimes of foul sound. It's so interesting too, because we just saw those pictures of Darcy's cute little twins that was getting passed around. I was thinking like these kids, and I was saying this at the wedding. We were saying Ashley had that little baby, and I was joking and saying, in Bhakti we learn like that's not your baby. I was like, Ashley, I'm sorry, that's not your baby. The idea is that it appears like it's coming from her body and therefore it's hers and she owns it and it even looks like her, but it's not her baby. It comes through you, this child. And it seems like the child is a blank slate, a clear etch-a-sketch with nothing on it. But there's packed in karma from her lifetimes. And parents get this. Parents who have kids get this, that their kid is coming with their own set of karma. You generally if you don't figure it out when they're little, you figure it out at puberty. Like they have their own whole karmic thing that's coming into flowering right now. And you start to realize like, wow, this kid is becoming a kid. It's got nothing to do with me. They're their own, right? I think I'm creating them with everything. I'm creating them with something. I'm leading them in some way. But it's not like I'm not going to make a watermelon seed give cucumbers. It's going to give watermelon. There's a karma in there. And I have something to do with that kid. But that kid's got their own amount of karma. Papa Tony probably knows all this. He's got kids.
Okay. Back to our theme.
Are you giving me the golf clap? Was that the golf clap?
I'm trying to get back to our theme.
Okay, but that was a good thing, man.
Okay, but in any case, as we were speaking about earlier,
I have to validate what I just said. That was a good thing.
If we really want to transform our yoga practice, and this is something that's almost ignored, it has to do with sound. Now, you said there's sounds that go on in our head, right?
Yeah.
And also like when these ancient yogis, when they speak about sound and its power, when they say it's all about hearing, that the transformative power in yoga is especially through hearing. Hearing also means reading these books, right? Because the books are just like the written word is just a code for sound. And when you read the page, the sound goes off in your mind. So it's the same thing, right?
I'm thinking.
Yeah, but it's the sound that we choose to focus on that makes all the difference. And therefore, the yoga tradition is largely based off of these like wandering storytellers, right? There's always this kind of yogi that would be going from town to town, from village to village, or the old guy or the old lady, the grandmother in the village that are telling the Mahabharata and telling the Ramayana and telling Bhagavatam stories.
There were tribes, you can call them tribes, groups of wandering mendicants, and they would sit in villages for like a month.
Yeah.
And not just tell stories, but speak the stories in perfect prose. And they were tribes of illiterates because they said once you started to read it did something to your memory. They were, and it was a tradition throughout India.
Where were these tribes? I've never heard of these tribes.
I know. I read about it. But they were illiterates that would just, and like I said, it's not just storytelling. It's actually deep memorization of thousands of shlokas, and they would just tell these stories, and that was entertainment. That's what the village would do. It's still there in India.
Yeah, uplifting entertainment.
Quick,
right?
Uplifting entertainment. It doesn't mean it wasn't right. Like you're reading those comic books right now. It doesn't mean like some of those comic books are gory. It doesn't mean
there's some violence in there, boy. Whew.
You know, someone was just asking me about that too. A parent was asking me like, some of these stories I want my kids to read, they're sort of gory, or I'm telling the stories. But when you're telling stories, it's different than watching a movie. And this is why storytelling is very powerful, I find, is because you leave it up to the hearer's imagination. So generally it doesn't go to crazy dark things like when you're watching it on TV, if you're just hearing a story, because it's in your imagination. Once you start to add pictures and add movies and add lasers, then all of a sudden you're relinquishing the imagination as well. That's why storytelling also has this powerful effect on the imagination of the listener. And that's why it's a powerful thing for kids and education is the hearing of stories, the telling of stories, as opposed to putting them in front of their screen and hearing that same story on a screen. It does something to the imagination. But anyway, I digress again. But it is those sounds. Go on.
Why don't we hear a little of the sound of Srila Prabhupada's commentary?
Yeah.
He says, as it was said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam in text 158, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Brahmaji is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as he comes and manifests himself here on the surface of the material planets. Every living entity, this is where it gets serious, has a tendency to hear pleasing messages.
Yeah.
Right? It's our senses are
I love
calling
pleasing
us to do
messages.
it, right? And as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by the radio stations. And Prabhupada wrote this a long time ago, right? Probably barely any television in India at the time when he wrote this. He says, but the difficulty, now this is what you have to think about, right? But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all those messages. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul.
Wow.
Right. So there are messages that are in harmony with and that satisfy the and that's why Brahma said here, he said, these pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart, in that innermost stratum. He holds them there, right? Hearing these messages that speak to that part. Otherwise, it's all on the mental platform. And the mind is always going through these ups and downs, and we get attracted to hearing this, and then we feel dissatisfied. And what you say is right. You know, our tendency is to go dark. If we're not consciously trying to keep it bright.
Maybe it's my tendency. Maybe it's my tendency.
I'll tell you, I'll share something that I actually got from Netflix, but that's very educational in this. You ready?
Yeah.
There's a film by the Coen brothers. I'm even forgetting what it's called, but it's like a compilation of short films. And in those, they're all kind of take place in the West, like in the Old West. And there's this one about this guy. He's traveling around like in a little kind of like stagecoach thing. And he stops off in every town, and his little stagecoach kind of like he can open it up and it turns into like a beautifully little decorated kind of stage. And then he's got this person that he's traveling with who's like, he's one of these people who's like, he's got no arms or legs. And that little person, you know, performs, but he just narrates, right? And he would pull into a town, he would put up a few signs, and then everyone from the town, they would come to hear that evening, to hear his presentation, to hear the show. And then the next day he would go to the next town. And they would collect a little money. Everyone would chip in something because, and what this, you know, there's this person, he had no arms or legs. He couldn't even move around, but you could see he went deep, so like he's reciting Shakespeare and the Bible and things like that, stuff that was like even of course Bible is like spiritual vibration, but whatever he was reciting was kind of elevated. It was character building and uplifting and written with great deep thought and so on, and he could recite it beautifully, and all the people were moved by it. And so they would go from town to town like this, and then they would also show that the guy that drives the stagecoach, he kind of has to take care of this person because he can't even eat by himself. He can't go to the bathroom by himself. He can't do anything by himself. So he's taking care of this guy who's kind of the moneymaker for him, right? He's kind of like the guy that's, without him, he's got no show.
Right.
So he's taking care of him and feeding him, and he's got this kind of like refined quality show going from town to town. But as he's going on, like the audience is getting smaller and smaller, and the donations are getting less and less. I guess as he's going further out west or whatever. So then he gets to this one town and he hangs up his signs and he sees like nobody came. And then he hears the sound coming from a distance, and he goes and he finds someone else has got another show going on. And what that show is, and the whole town is there, and the whole town is like super excited. And it's there's like a chicken, and this guy's got like this trained chicken, and people could throw out like mathematical equations, like what is 5 + 11, and then the chicken would like go and like hit on the number.
Yeah, those are pretty fascinating. Chickens. I was one of the ones that went to watch.
You went over there. So anyway, this guy's like, the town's going crazy over it, and everybody's giving money like crazy. And then and it's a really sad story actually. And then like, the guy's he's looking back there and he's like feeding this guy and he's taking him to the bathroom and he's like realizing, man. So he goes and he buys the chicken. And then, you got the chicken and the guy in the back of the cart now, and he's driving to the next town. And then he gets to like this real tall bridge that's like goes miles down, and then he's looking at the bridge and he's looking at the guy and he's thinking about it. And then next thing you know, he's driving along and all there is a chicken in the back.
He killed the guy.
All right. But I just bring this up to show is like, why are the people so much more interested in the stupid chicken game than they were in hearing this, elevated, kind of discussion or narration, but we're like that, we go for the clickbait. We go for, we go to the murder stuff,
mysteries,
the murder mysteries. We go, it's like the energy drags us down. If we're not, it's kind of like if you jump in the water and there's a heavy current, unless you are consciously swimming against it, you're going to go down, right? And so the current of this material energy is so strong that there has to be a conscious effort, and we're trying to do that individually. Like all these people, you're all up at 5 a.m., or for the others that are listening later in the day, you're deciding consciously, I'm going to listen to this Bhagavatam, discussion on Bhagavatam rather than so many other things I could be listening to. And in that yoga society, those wandering, storytellers, or those kind of town storytellers, or the priests, they weren't seen as beggars, even though they likely had nothing. People would feed them. You wandered into our town. Let me give you a place to stay, and let us feed you, and let's give you a little something, as you make your way. They were seen as like the ones that were really giving.
Real contributors.
The real contributors to society. And so
they had nothing. They had nothing. Maybe not even homes,
wanderers. But the idea was that society together, everybody recognized the value of that we need this, otherwise we get dragged down. And if we plug into this, we get lifted up. It counteracts all of that foul matters accumulated in the year, right? Our society is so completely, addicted to and obsessed with and warped by, right? We're warped by all this, that we can't even get along with each other. We can't even, be happy with one another.
If you think about the iPhone, it's just like a little box of foul matter, just drawing foul matter. Because imagine you and me and Mara sitting in our village, 400 years ago, And how much foul matter is out there? And not that all there is gossip and some stories, but now it's like everybody retreats to their phone. They could be in the bathroom, they could be in bed, they could be anywhere, but they're on their phone and they're just going to some type of clickbaity type of thing to pour. Foul matter has increased massively since the smartphone has been around, or since Netflix. Everyone goes to let's turn on Netflix. Even Netflix compared to like what regular TV was when we were growing up in the 70s. If you think about the TV shows, you know, The Partridge Family, Mannix, you know, when the biggest, scariest cop shows were like The Rookies and Adam 12, it's like that was nothing compared to the cop shows you can see now. Like they get really dark, really quick, but the foul matter is very foul and it's all over the place. And you have, you know, if I wanted to watch, you know, the Rockford Files, you got to wait till every Thursday at 8:30 when the Rockford Files comes on.
And you can't watch 20 of them in a row. I can
watch 20 seasons of the Rockford Files or 20 seasons of Breaking Bad or whatever it is that you can just like lock in on. And that just becomes like an overdose of foul matter. And now I'm walking around with all that stuff in my mind, all those images you can't unsee. Things you would never there were things I've seen, you know, through dark movies or dark TV shows that I would have never thought of. I would never thought of locking a person in my basement, like on what's that, Silent of the Lambs. I would never think of that. Now that's in there. That's an idea. Like, this is horrible. Who's planning this stuff in our brains? So anyway, foul matter, foul sounds, foul sights.
Yeah. But the almost shocking thing is that the Western yoga world is almost completely out of touch with this most fundamental idea that, you know, because yoga is all about, you know, transforming the mind. And the most effective way to transform the mind is through what you hear. And the yogis recognize that, and therefore they placed hearing as such an important, you know, when we talk about the paths of bhakti, it's the first one mentioned, Shravanam, Kirtanam, right? Shravanam is first, you know, what you hear. Within the yoga tradition itself, it's such an important part. And as the yoga tradition kind of gets transferred across the ocean into the Western world, it's almost like the teachers are totally out of touch with this very fundamental idea that this is not something that's even mentioned, what to speak of practice, what to speak of consciously practice daily, right? And that's where yoga gets serious. On a daily basis, I'm going to consciously choose what I listen to. I'm going to regulate it. I'm going to hear that important, uplifting, counteracting, pleasing, relishing, that sound, which will become so. In here, Brahma saying, you know, therefore it's in my heart. We need a heart and a mind full of that. Otherwise, the yoga is going to be you're not going to make so much progress, you know.
Speaking of relishing sound, I'm doing a Sweet Baby Krishna tonight at 8
you see,
p.m.
there you go. You're the wandering
Sweet
minstrel.
Baby. I'm the wandering minstrel. But you had something. Oh, I was going to say, yeah, your point is well taken. Doing the asanas every day actually transforms the body. If you want transformation, it's not like once a month. It comes from a regular practice. And then yogis take it a little further and they get serious about their breathing practices. And that actually transformed the pace of your life, your digestion, your circulation, your mind. And then we get to people start to change their diet when they practice yoga a lot. They start to really restrict what they put in their mouth or how much they put in their mouth and stuff like that. They start to be very careful. And they start to say, no, none of this. I don't eat that. I don't eat that. No, can't eat that. Go home on a holiday, ruin it for everybody. Don't eat that. I don't eat that. I don't want that. Then this is the final step. What am I going to hear? And not just like randomly. What do I hear on a regular? That's why I think this podcast is having so much effect, is because it's not just like you do a workshop at the Bhakti Center. I go to Switzerland and do an event. It's like people have an opportunity to hear. I have the opportunity to hear and speak every day on the Bhagavatam, and it starts to transform the consciousness. And that's why it's benefiting me, as much as, it's benefiting David Charles Wilson. Hearing the Bhagavatam on a regular basis, it's benefiting us. but it's got to be every day. And just like I can't say like, well, I'm a vegetarian, you know, sometimes I'm sort of a vegetarian.
Right.
You know, it's got to really have that effect. We have to be consciously choosing. And that doesn't mean we won't slip. It just means when you slip, you pick yourself up without beating yourself up. Yeah.
Pick yourself up without beating yourself up.
You like that, Mara? Tattoo it then.
Okay. But that's you know, we went over this. Oh, by the way, today we'll drop the talk that I gave on how to perform an arti, first step in home worship.
Nice.
Yeah, this morning I'll put that up. But there we quoted from the Yoga Sutras. This Yoga Sutras 112 through 114. They explain this principle, you know, like what you're saying about it being daily, how that makes all the difference. But, you know, in the earlier verses, it says, you know, that one can practice yoga by stilling the fluctuations in the mind. And then Sutra 12 says that the changing states of mind are stilled by practice and detachment. And then it begins to define practice. And it says practice is the effort to be fixed and concentrating the mind. And then it describes more about practice. And it says that practice becomes firmly established. In other words, if you want to practice yoga and you want it to take root, right, to really be transformative, not to just be something that you just did, but it didn't really have any effect. If you want it to take root, practice becomes firmly established when it has been cultivated uninterruptedly and with devotion over a prolonged period of time. And so by uninterrupted, what, you know, the commentators on this say, the classic commentators, that means daily. You do something every day. You don't interrupt. You don't do it one day and not do it the next day and then do it for 2 weeks and then not do it for 3 weeks. No, you do it steadily day by day. You do it with the right devotion and you're patient and you do it over the period of a long time, and that practice begins to transform one. And you know what? That reminds me.
What?
That we got a special guest coming on Sunday, right? Edwin Bryant. Is it not?
Yeah, Edwin
That's
Bryant.
right.
Yoga. You're gonna love him. He's the best.
All right.
Edwin Bryant this Sunday.
Professor Edwin Bryant.
Professor Edwin Bryant at where's he teach? Princeton.
I think he teaches at Rutgers.
And
he lives in Princeton.
He has a great Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras people should read if they're going to read the Yoga Sutras. And this, and we'll talk all about it Sunday. But he's an incredible author, scholar, funny, super learned. You know, I just wanted to also share before we get out of here is in the same way the hearing is the most important and can be the most detrimental, the mouth on the other side is the same thing. Like what comes out of the mouth is the most beneficial and it's the most disastrous. It can cause this tiny little hole in your head, can cause so much tragedy, so many problems. It can ruin your life. It can ruin your marriage. It can ruin a friendship. And so what comes out of the mouth, it also has to be incredibly regulated as far as, and it can also assist your relationships, assist your love, assist you in the workplace, assist your transcendental experience. But yeah, I think what comes out of the mouth first, it all really depends of what comes into the ears.
To the ear. And therefore Prabhupada ends his commentary to this verse by saying, there are 1,001 rash literatures on the market.
Rash?
Rash.
Brash? Brash?
Rash. He says rash. There are 1,001 rash literatures on the market, but one who has taken interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. Sri Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar. That's the end of the chapter. That ends the purports to the second canto, 6th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled
Cause of all causes.
No, Purusha Shukta confirmed.
Purusha Shukta confirmed.
Yeah.
I'm always a chapter behind. I'm still relishing the previous chapter.
There you
Mara,
go.
what's going on in Patreon? We have a men's meeting today, 10 o'clock?
It's moved to 11 o'clock now.
11 o'clock men's meeting.
Yep, and there's a 10 a.m. asana class.
Allowed.
There's a 10 a.m. asana class. Jeffrey Newberger is teaching today from Palo
All
Santo.
right.
Yeah.
Jeffrey
And then
Newberger's great.
yeah. And then you're doing the Sweet Baby Krishna at 8 p.m. tonight.
All right. What a
And
day.
we'll be dropping that home worship thing, and maybe well, the other one's already up there, I think, but we got to put the recording of from Dunya's talk,
Oh,
which
yeah. And
was really great.
Dunya's on again this Friday.
On
Also,
Friday.
she does a relationship couples. She's a great part of the team now. I'm glad we have her.
This week there are 13 live events and 1 or 2 recorded events going up on Patreon for Patreon.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's a lot.
So anyway, if you'd like to support us, you do that. And you get this whole vault of transcendental information and goodies, live yoga classes, recorded yoga classes. You can just go to back yoga classes. You never have to go to a yoga studio again. I'm going to put all these yoga studios, including my own, out of business right now by making this announcement. For a donation a month, you get back catalogs of all these yoga classes, workshops, and good stuff by great, really refined, empowered teachers. So that's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, and join our community and support us. We appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us on Zoom. Fun part of the day for me is we get to see everyone sort of just like nodding. You see, look around at the pictures, people are just sort of like going like this. But now we put our hands to namaste, and then we just start going like this. Yeah, now it's a whole different game.
It changes
If
everything.
you want transcendence, you don't get it like this. You gotta go like this. Someone asked me at the Wisdom of the Sages retreat, why don't you guys chant Shanti, Shanti, Shanti so much?
Like, why don't we?
You want to hear my good answer? I think it was a good answer.
Because we want love, not peace.
We don't want peace. Sometimes Krishna says, I want you to do something tough, and it's not peaceful. But you know what? That's part of love. Every parent knows that. Sometimes you got to do stuff that you don't necessarily want to do, but you do it out of love. And so peace comes, though, when you realize, you know what? This isn't my life is an offering. And when you accept that first thing in the morning, whatever you want, Krishna, you find a deeper peace than just trying to run around this world. Where can I find peace? Where can I find peace? Shanti comes naturally for one who desires bhakti or devotional service. Shri Vrindavan. This is where my peace comes right here. Radhe.